The Cammus DDWB21 is potentially the best value direct drive wheel on the market. We've tried it out and we're going to find out whether your savings are worth it. Firstly, this is not a sponsored video, although Cammus did send us the wheel and the base unit for free. Please see our full review policy in the description below. The advertised price of the Cammus wheelbase is $499, although with the Formula rim or the round rim, you're looking at more like $700. So what do you get for that price? The Cammus wheel is only compatible with PC racing games, and as far as we are aware, there are no plans for console use. The base unit comes separate to the steering wheels, and the steering wheels come semi-assembled. With the quick release and the steering wheel base separate, you just have to screw them together with the bolts supplied. Included in the box, we have our Cammus DDWB21 wheelbase, and as you can hear, it is a monster, 11.5 kilos on its own. You also get an equally large power supply, which of course powers our wheelbase, along with all of the needed cables, USB-A to USB-B converter, and everything else that you will need to make it work. We were also sent a separate box which included our Formula style Cammus wheel. This came with just the rim separate from all the buttons and the universal attachment point, which is one of the big selling points of the Cammus wheels because they want people to use aftermarket wheels. It was also included a quick release, which was a little greasy straight out of the box, and of course the shifters, which needed to be attached as well. There were, however, no paper instructions in the box, and we had to hunt on the website to find those. Everything arrived well packaged and was well protected, although the boxes did arrive slightly dented, but that's not really Cammus's fault. It has come a long way. Also included in the box were 4 bolts and washers, including some spring washers, a nice little detail from Cammus. Let's have a look at the base in a bit more detail. Aluminium all the way around, front and rear. It's a very solid unit and feels quite premium to the touch. They've got their logos on the side, and as you can see on the front, we have buttons and switches, which is a really nice addition. We've got 2 buttons on the left-hand side and 2 pressable rotary switches. They're very small in increment and quite light to touch and turn, which is potentially something you need to think about. It might be a bit difficult to use while racing. On the top left-hand side, we also have a position switch with 3 positions, up, middle, and down. If we move to the other side, you have 3 additional buttons, the power button, and another switch, although this time it is just an increment switch, so it recenters itself. You'll also notice at the back there is a gap here, which is where a fan sits to keep the circuit board cool. The main base is passively cooled, and as far as I can see, there's nowhere for this air to be exhausted, so it is purely just to blow some fresh air on the circuit board. There are a couple of mounting options for the Cammus wheelbase. You have a channel on each side which will allow T-nuts to be slid in and attached to your 80/20 aluminium rig, or alternatively, there are 4 holes on the bottom which you can either use to attach straight to your wheel deck or using the adapter you can find on the Cammus website. As you can also see, not only is this wheelbase very heavy, but it'll take up a lot of real estate on your rig. We were sent the Cammus Formula style rim, and this came semi-assembled in about 4 or 5 separate parts. You have the wheel front here, which is Cammus branded. You then have the wheel chassis itself, which is made of 3mm thick black anodized aluminium with silicone rubber grips. Although the rubber grips are quite thin, I would imagine most people would want to wrap these grips with tennis racket grip or a handlebar grip or something similar. The paddles were not attached to the wheel, and we got a couple of different options, as well as the quick release system, which attaches to the rest of the unit. The buttons included on the wheel, which I believe are the same for the GTS and the full circular GT wheel, are in this format. So we have 4 just single press buttons at the top. One side we have a position switch with 3 positions, the other is a momentary switch, as well as 2 pressable rotary encoders. Now, as I mentioned just on the wheelbase, the same with the wheel, these are very, very light to move, and also the increments are very small, so it will be quite difficult to accurately use these while under the high forces that the wheelbase can put out. The included quick release system is fairly simple. It's a bit different to some other brands, but it does, once you have it installed properly, snap straight on, but then you have to turn the base until it snaps in, and then you do have a very, very solid quick release system. It's a little bit more fiddly to remove, as there is a catch which looks something like this. You have to press that while simultaneously pulling the collar up, and then it will hopefully remove something like that. It took me a little while to get used to the first time, but after watching one of their informative videos online, I found it fairly easy. Also, one big advantage of the Cammus is it uses the standard automotive layout for the bolts for attaching the wheel to the button base and of course to the quick release. So you can buy pretty much any aftermarket wheel and use it with the Cammus wheelbase. By the time your Cammus products arrive at your doorstep, you will have negotiated the somewhat outdated website with PowerPoint 2007 style transitions, and as well as their other products they sell, like a racing gauge, an electric go-kart, an electric supercar. An electric supercar? You'll eventually find your way to the store, which is based on the windbooster.com website. This is where you'll find all of the products available, as well as some of their bundles. Delivery from China takes about 2 weeks, which of course is not Cammus's fault, it's a very long way, but that's not the only issue. It is very expensive. For delivery of this wheel with this base, you'd be looking at probably about £160 as we saw on the website, or delivery to the US is about $140, and that doesn't even potentially include tax or import duty. And when you think you can get a Thrustmaster T818 delivered here in the UK for about £710, is its value really worth it? Moving on to mounting and assembly. The wheel, as I mentioned earlier, comes with 4 bolts that are in the standard pattern, and it's fairly obvious how it all goes together, but you will have to use your initiative if you do struggle, because the instructions are fairly limited and you'll have to hunt online for those. The base itself comes fully assembled and you just need to put it on the rig. And you will be needing a rig because she's heavy. 15 Newton meters is more than enough for any wheel stand, so I recommend mounting this on a rig. We looked on the website, and as far as we could see, there was no desk mounting option available, and if you do need to mount it on a desk, you're probably going to have to go with some sort of bespoke upgrade. Mounting to your rig will probably be through these 4 holes at the base of the unit. Unfortunately, they are their own unique spacing and don't match up with any of the holes on most rigs. You can, of course, buy a Fanatic adapter for $29, or they sell an adjustable base plate for $49 in addition, but they could have made the hole placements fit any rig, but they didn't, which I think was a bit of an oversight. And now the section you're probably most intrigued about, the force feedback. We started our force feedback testing with Assetto Corsa Competizione. In the straights and in the sort of the lower load corners, you do get a feeling of what the track's doing, and you definitely get a feeling of what the curbs are doing as well. It's almost like it's got a rumble motor in, but it actually doesn't. You've got that detail, but as soon as you load the car up, like I'm at Bathurst, I'm just going over the top of the mountain now over the really quick double left-handers, and as soon as the car loads up, I feel like the force of the wheel overrides all of the detail, and you're sort of left guessing as to what the car is feeling underneath you and the road surfaces, and that's something that's definitely lacking in comparison to some of the more higher end, more premium direct drive wheels, and even sort of in the same sort of price bracket, the Fanatic DD SL and DD Pro, and also the Thrustmaster T818. They've got just a bit more refined force feedback, and there's absolutely no lack in strength, as you've probably seen from some of the shots we've got so far, but yeah, it's just a bit of detail that it lacks, especially in Assetto Corsa. It's all just a bit spongy and a bit smooth, which is it's quite nice to drive, but I want more. I wanted to give me some more. So on iRacing, I'm feeling pretty much the same characteristics as I felt on Assetto Corsa. Just a general lack of feeling once you get loaded up in the corners. Once the force feedback gets pretty high, you just feel like there's just a bit of vagueness going on there, and the force just completely overrides all the intricate details of the curbs, the track, the tyres, the suspension. You're just lacking that little bit of extra. Again, plenty of detail on the slower corners with less load and less steering angle, and it also feels a little strange. It almost like as the steering angle increases, the load increases proportionally, which doesn't give you that feeling of connection to the road, and I'm just lacking a bit of confidence in what the force feedback is telling me, because I feel like I'm missing a level of detail that other wheels do give you. I wish it had just that little bit extra, and again, the strength is there, and I know the detail can be there, because for instance, running down the straight, if I touch a curb at very, very small steering angles, just like I did then, I can feel that through the wheel, but if I did exactly the same thing in a corner, I just wouldn't get the same feeling. The position of these buttons is not ideal, because when you are driving you can't see them, so you have to peer around the wheel, and again, these rotor encoders are a bit finicky, they're a bit small in their increments and very, very light to operate. And same with the power button as well. This power button, as standard, is the only way of turning the force feedback of the wheel off, and it does, as you can see, take a 3-second hold to power the wheel down before the force feedback is off. Now imagine the wheel's going crazy, and we've got a lot of force in the Cammus wheelbase. So if the wheel's going crazy, you've already hurt yourself. To have to reach around the wheel and turn that off potentially is an issue. And if you do want an emergency stop, there's no other way of stopping it other than basically pulling the power out the back. Cammus do sell an emergency stop button on their website. I believe it's for $39, but I'll show that on screen if I'm wrong. But that is the only way you could kill it, and of course that's an additional extra. Overall, the force feedback is very strong. It's definitely strong enough to hurt you, and I made sure that I took my hands off the wheel if I did crash. So there's definitely opportunity for you to hurt yourself there. Generally, the detail at lower forces is actually okay. You can feel the road, you can feel the ripples, the curbs, but as soon as you get loaded up into a corner, it feels like all that detail just disappears and you're left with just a very heavy strength, which leaves you a bit disconnected from the car, and it feels a bit vague. A couple of times I felt like I was in a corner and the oversteer caught me by surprise because I didn't have any forewarning. Overall, the Cammus is a strong wheel at a good price, and that's exactly what the direct drive market needs. It delivers on strength and certainly has good beef for its buck. It has some excellent features that even some of the more well-established manufacturers could take a look at. For example, the buttons and switches on the base, and the fact that it's got a universal mounting solution for the steering wheel, meaning you can add any aftermarket wheel. However, there are some notable drawbacks to stop this being a giant beater. If you're based in Asia and want to make the step up from a belt or gear driven wheel, then the Cammus could be an excellent option. Furthermore, if Cammus can refine their force feedback and software and neaten up a few rough edges, then this could be an attractive proposition. But until then, unfortunately, it's not a game changer. I would love to see this continuing trend of strong and affordable direct drive wheels hitting the market, and I believe Cammus are paving the way for this. Thanks very much to Cammus for sending us this unit once again, and if you are considering getting Cammus, let us know in the comments. But until then, thanks for watching, have a great day, and keep it pinned.